Hello, everyone. I am Clara Capano, your host for Women Winning Their Way, where we highlight and talk about how we can create success and do it all on our terms. So let's be honest, we all want success. We dream about it. We think about what it would be like to live that perfect life with the house, the car, the family, the spouse, all of those things. But what happens when you build that perfect life and you realize that that perfect house of cards comes crumbling down? Well, this is exactly what we're going to be talking about today with my guest who went through building a vision of success only to find out that there are a lot of hidden secrets that caused it all to come crashing down. So help me welcome up. Let me go ahead and welcome Rachel Weaver to the stage. Rachel, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, Claire, thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here with you today and your audience as well.
Yeah, so we are going to share some amazing things. But before we start diving in to learning about your journey of how you fought back and used resilience to really create a new personalized path to success, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Thank you so much. So, my name is Rachel Weaver. I am founder of Level Up Media PR, a full service PR and media relations company. And I really, truly love helping others, entrepreneurs, business owners, executives, to truly shine the light on them so they can be seen as the celebrity in whatever market or niche that they are in. I have worked with many, many people that have forgotten about personal branding, forgotten about building a brand around some of the things that they are doing personally, no matter what market or niche they are in, no matter if they're an employee or an entrepreneur of a 9-figure business. They built the branding around the business. And I like to teach people to build their brand around you because you never know when things might change. So,
Exactly. And I definitely want to tap into a little bit of that as we continue our conversation, because I think there's a lot of confusion around what really is PR and how to do it the right way. But what I want to do now is really dive into why we're here. On this show, we talk about women creating a path to success that is going to work for them. And you had a situation come up in your personal life where, you were going along and everything was going great, only to find out that your spouse actually had an entire secret life. So tell us a little bit about, your journey and what happened and, how you had to use that to catapult yourself in a new direction.
yes. Um, it's true. um, so I had been married for about um, almost 15 years with my spouse for 18. When all along the way, I thought that we had the most beautiful life. And so, really and truly, there were times throughout our relationship where I would get these gut feelings and I would question things because both of us traveled. I was running a major company that was in 13 states and 3 countries. And in the midst of all of it, I was also hosting large events across the world. I was traveling for business meetings. I was doing all the things, plus being a mom, plus being a wife. And throughout our years of being together, we had moved all over the world. So constantly rebuilding my network, right, of people around me, and just really on the road a lot. And he was successful in his business, so he did travel a lot for work as well. But there were times when I questioned some of the travel that he was doing. And so then when I would propose a question, um, it was often led to me, him saying, "You're crazy." Like, oh, You know how in love with you I am. You know how happy we are. And I would think to myself, oh, I guess I'm crazy. Like he
Yeah.
adores me, you know?
Yeah. He was doing all, that gaslighting to you.
Yeah. Yeah. So there was a
Mhm.
lot of that. And to be honest, as unfortunate as it was, I learned a lot. As unfortunate as I was, I have two beautiful children. He just really had some mental health challenges that started long before he and I ever met. And so, I am very amicable with him, and I do want a good relationship. We have children, and that's never going to change. And so there are a lot of people that don't understand, like, how do you invite him over for dinner still?
Mhm.
How do you allow? Because we share something that, in my personal opinion, is priceless. We have children, and
Mhm.
although they are teenagers, I still want to be a role model for them.
Absolutely.
And I want them to have the fairy tale that I thought I was living, but I want it to be real.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
want it to be real for them.
Mhm.
And so I just believe that, as hard as it was, don't get me wrong. It's not like I wasn't angry,
Mhm.
but I chose to go through the healing process immediately. I chose to jump on getting myself deep, deep help. So, yeah, it's been
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate you sharing that. And I think, again, whether people have this exact situation happen, I think there are so many levels of, this idea of perfection falling apart, and we have to learn how to pivot. And what I oftentimes see when women come to me and when I'm working with them is so many of us take these things as a personal failure.
yeah,
There's a lot of shame that comes in, and it's how do we go forward? So, this was a really big, your life, changed. And then you had to find a way to continue to go forward and still do it in a way of grace where you could be, still be that strong role model for your children. So what were some of the strategies that you used to continue to pick yourself up and go forward in the midst of your life kind of falling apart?
yeah. Those are really good, deep questions because, to be honest with you, it was not easy. And I'm just going to be really transparent here. By the grace of God, like whatever you believe in, but I am trauma recovery certified. So I've always, since I met him, I have had this craving of personal growth. So through the years, as building out companies, I also went through NLP and became certified in NLP. I went through trauma recovery certification programs at Johns Hopkins University. I wrote a thesis on addiction and trauma from Johns Hopkins. I was doing all of these things, and yet at the same time, I'm continuing to grow myself and continuing to question
Mhm.
things. And so I feel really, really lucky because I did have those tools that I had learned throughout all the years of my studying. Um, but at the same time, when you realize something as significant as learning that you basically, in that moment, I felt like I lived a lie for half of my life.
Right.
Like,
Mhm.
how is this even possible? My entire adult life was a lie, is what you feel in that
Mhm.
moment of discovery. And so I will say that it's not easy. And the thing that really kept me going was knowing that how I respond to this situation is going to be a direct reflection, not necessarily on me, but all those people that look at me and respect me and care about me and my children.
Right.
And so there was a significant amount of shame. That just comes with the territory. Anyone who's been betrayed at all
Mhm.
can feel a significant level of betrayal. And
Right.
so many people, I think, in today's world kind of just brush it off and say next
Right.
instead of going through the work to begin healing, to make sure that you don't take that trauma to the next person,
Mhm.
because we tend to carry that with us. And I think that it's a lot of the reason that, the divorce rate is what it is today. I think
Mhm.
it's a lot of the reason that we have these dating apps at our fingertips.
Right.
Instead of working through things, people just look for what's going to feel good in the moment to
Mhm.
numb that.
Right.
And thankfully, I knew better. And so I did begin to get help immediately. The week that I discovered and I found out even just a little piece of reality, because it like
Mhm.
in the grand scheme of things, I knew nothing. I knew nothing. But I did know that I needed to get myself and my
Mhm.
children help immediately.
Right.
And so I immediately went into therapy mode. So I will say that, you know, we feel that level of shame, but no one else around you would ever look at you in
Mhm.
a negative light saying, you were betrayed and cheated on, like, you're dumb. What's wrong with you? But
Right.
you do feel like that.
Mhm. Right. And
So,
I think again, so much of what you're saying is, can be relatable in other areas as well, not just on your personal life. But I have seen people and I've worked with people who business partnerships fall apart. Their businesses have to fold. They have to file bankruptcy and close their businesses. And I see a lot of that shame and guilt and that feeling of failure, carry forward. One of the things I really love that you said is because you had children with this man, you had to find a way to be amicable. And I think that that is such a powerful lesson because I think so many people get caught up in the anger. And again, whether it's a personal relationship or a business relationship, what were some of the things that you had to do to establish this? We're going to have to find a way to make this work because you might have shown up and said, we're going to make this work. And the other person might want to fight you on it. So, what
mhm.
were some of the strategies that you can pass on to, other professional women so that whether it's a personal or professional kind of, charge that they have to end and walk away from, how can they do it the most amicable way possible?
So first and foremost, build yourself a support group.
Mhm.
I will say that time and time again. I think it's critical whether it's business or it's personal. And business tends to get pretty sticky, right?
Mhm.
I'm all too familiar with the business side of things as well. Uh, but I will say we need people. Okay. Everyone needs someone. So I will say build a strong support system that
Mhm.
you know and you can trust and that you can talk to about things. And not only can they be there for you, but they can also help you see, look, I understand your perspective, but you need to look at it in a different light.
Mhm.
We need people who are going to be honest to us and not fluff, right? We need people who are going to be there, but love us, but not just agree with us because it's what we're saying. Because a lot of times our pain is speaking
Right.
and we can't rationalize. That's what trauma does to our brains. That's what, betrayal does to our brains is we can't rationalize some of the things that we normally would be able to say, it's not that bad. And
Mhm.
there is another way to look at this. And we can come to a compromise, but we're not able to do that, especially if the other person is angry and verbally attacking you or saying things that are not truthful or gaslighting you.
Mhm.
We tend to not be able to think straight, become upset and maybe aggressive towards that person, which solves nothing,
Right.
right? Personal or professional. It solves nothing. Don't get me wrong. I was not perfect. Okay. Like there were times when I did. And in those moments, when you are so upset and angry, we call them trauma triggers, right? We're
Mhm.
triggered. And all of these emotions come to the surface, and we cannot really calm ourselves down in that moment. So we respond in a way that often we're not proud of, right?
Right.
So I would say the first thing is surrounding yourself with that support system.
Mhm.
Okay. Second thing is take a break, remove yourself. If things are not aligning right with the two of you and one person's getting angry, take a deep breath and respect yourself
Mhm.
and the other person enough to say, we can't have this conversation right now. I
Mhm.
need to leave. And sometimes, even in a business relationship, I recommend bringing in a mediator or someone. It doesn't have to be an attorney. It doesn't have to be, it can be someone who is going to stand the middle ground to say, okay, I'm going to facilitate this talk between the two of you so we can leave emotion out and talk about the necessary things we need to talk about without becoming angry and upset. And if one of you becomes angry and upset and cannot rationalize properly, we're going to adjourn later.
Mhm.
We're going to leave this meeting. And that is one thing that I did learn very early on to do for myself and in business for my partners. And also when I was going through this with the father of my children,
Mhm.
because I it took me a while to get to that point with him because I thought to myself, first of all, I don't want people to know
Mhm.
because my best friend, my mother, everyone's like, there's no way he adores you. There's no way. Like this, no. What did you do?
Right.
um yeah, and so it took me it did take me a minute, but the other tips and tools I would say is, a lot of people think it's fluff, but you really do need to ground yourself. You
Mhm.
really do need to practice, learn breathing techniques, journaling. If you don't want to write, writing is healing. Writing with our hands can help calm us. And people don't understand that. Speaking your emotions, even if you're speaking into a video camera because
Yeah.
you're too ashamed to talk to people,
Mhm.
record your journey. Talk to you can be so real and so raw on video when no one's watching except you. And I will say that if you record your journey later on, you could turn that into a book.
Mhm.
It as
Yeah,
real and raw as it is, it's in that moment, it's healing. I don't
exactly.
want anyone to think I have to turn this into a lesson for other people later on, but
No.
it's healing for
But
you.
it's healing for you. And, I encourage, people I work with to do the same thing. And even though I focus a lot on productivity, you can't be productive when you're, having all of these things go on in your mindset. And I know when I went through a challenge a couple of years ago, that was what it was. And, it was a breakup, but I wrote in my journal every day. And sometimes it was to that person, sometimes it was to me, but I had to get those words out. I had to get those feelings out. So
Mhm.
again, you can write a letter to that person. It doesn't mean you have to send it.
Yeah.
But again, you've got to, you can't just ignore it and just push it down. You have to find a healthy way to
Yeah,
face it. And like you said, that's all about the healing process with it.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So now, as you went through this, because I am a big proponent, and you even kind of mentioned this, is our past teaches us.
Oh,
And as horrible as it is, and how much we wouldn't want anyone to go through it, we come out oftentimes stronger. So,
hmm.
what are some of the ways in which you are better, both personally and professionally now?
Wow. That's so, so true. And although I wouldn't wish this upon my worst enemy to go through this, because most people don't understand. We know a lot about the brain more now than we've ever known. We know a lot about PTSD now that, thank Thankfully, mental health has been on the rise in research and brain scans. And uh, I feel super grateful. I want to let everyone know who's watching this, because the statistics are astounding on the number of people who've been through betrayal.
Mhm.
Spousal betrayal is real. It's significant. I want everyone who's listening here to understand that there is help, and that they don't have to brush it off and just try and numb it. They can get help, but it does take work.
Mhm.
It takes work on a daily basis. And I think that people just brush it off like, he cheated, whatever, he's just this, or she cheated and she's just this. But really, we're in a really difficult situation within the culture that we live in, the hookup culture that we live in today, because what we know from brain scans with PTSD, you might think it's not going to affect you, or doesn't seem like it's affecting you right now, but in the future, PTSD is very real. The
Mhm.
way you show up and you react, it can affect your personal and your professional life.
Right. Mhm.
Somebody can say something, or you can see an image and lose it. And people are like, what is wrong with this person? But we know through brain scans that the number one most traumatic thing that a person goes through is the loss of a child,
Mhm.
right? We started our research with PTSD because of war veterans. And then we started to see other people have, some of these challenges. So then when they started doing more and more research, a recent study was just done. The number one most traumatic thing is the loss of a child. The number two most traumatic thing that does the most amount of damage is betrayal from a significant other.
Mhm.
And a lot of people think there's no way, that's not possible. It has to be physical abuse or rape or war or witnessing. But um that's what they've
Well,
shown.
it is. And again, the fact that you bring it up to the idea that it doesn't necessarily affect you today, it affects you down the road. And I've experienced this firsthand. I was betrayed by someone, my first husband, and I thought I had got through it. But those scars caused me to do a lot of harm in my second marriage
Right,
because I wasn't healed. I went from a very bad situation to one that I thought was going to alleviate all the pain.
right.
But because I didn't acknowledge it, it always comes up. And so it's like this idea that we have to face these things. And again,
Yeah,
whether it's again betrayal from a personal one or betrayal of a business partner or a team member or whatever it is, you have to take the time to again, go through it
hmm
and face it.
hmm
So
yeah.
mhm.
Yeah. So I know that I totally got off track from what
No,
your
this is
actual
great
question
because
was.
this is what it is because again, it does affect us. And when we're talking about creating success on our terms, you had to rewrite what success was going to look
Yeah.
like for you.
Yes.
You had to go from being in a dual income household to being now a single parent, even
Yeah.
though I don't know the situation, he still might be contributing financially. But again, that changes it. So, what were some of the things you did? So, if you were talking with a woman today, and whether it was a divorce, maybe the death of a spouse, or whatever it was, and she had to start over, what are some things outside of maybe getting therapy and getting help? What are some other things that you could suggest for those people who have to start over?
So the first thing that I would tell someone, which actually I do meet with women almost on a weekly basis on a group Zooms, and you can always reach out to me, that are really rebuilding their lives. And I'm not every week consistently active, but I do show up for them whenever they need me.
Mhm.
They meet every week because I'm at this, a much better space in my life. And now I want others to see that you can get there too. So the one thing I will say is, for sure, besides the therapy and everything, make sure immediately you start to become active. You
Yeah.
start to become active and taking care of your physical health, because it can become very easy to go one direction or the other, just completely and totally um stop eating and lay in bed, or become obsessed with working out. Like it, there's all these different, we look for tools to numb, right? So the one thing I will say is it's really important to take care of yourself physically. It's vital
Mhm.
to take care of our health, movement, whether it be just going for a walk. And the other thing I'll say is get outside. The healing nature of outdoors is like nothing I had ever experienced until I went through this.
Mhm.
And because I'm a pretty girly girl, like I love to work out, but I want to work out in the gym. I don't want to be
Mhm.
near bugs. I will go glamping, not camping.
I'm there with you.
Right? Put me on a beautiful beach.
Mhm.
And I'll probably still prefer the swimming pool. But I will put my feet in the sand. But I will say it's really important to take care of yourself, number one. And number two, I will say that, you know, especially for my circumstances, there were a lot of things that were uncovered,
Mhm.
including, in 2018, I had exited my company, which is still there today successfully. And I'm super grateful to even, be associated with them. But it was really emotional to exit that company. And I had exited that company to follow my spouse to another country.
Mhm.
And I had finally, after 10 years of building that company and going global with them, decided that this was the time for me to focus on just coaching and consulting and doing other things that I had dreamed I wanted to do. And I could do them all virtually rather than from Asia getting on an airplane that was a 12 to 14-hour flight back to the US every time. So I sold my share of the company, our house, our cars. And then when I came back and discovered all these things, because of the illness and the things that he had been doing outside, all of that was gone. So I
Mhm.
literally went from thinking that I was set for life and my kids were set and I would never have to worry and I could pay for everything
Mhm.
cash and like build out my next business. And to discover all at once that your life was, betrayal and then losing everything financially,
Mhm.
um, it was hard. It was eye-opening. And
Mhm.
so once I got to a healthy place emotionally and psychologically, then I started to think about, okay, what are some ways that I know I can start to bring in an income, take care of myself still because it's a journey. Healing is
Right.
a journey. And for people to think you can just carry on with your everyday life after something like that is really almost, I'm not going to say it's impossible because anything's possible, but I'm going to say that we are kidding ourselves if we think we can carry on the same way we were carrying on.
Yeah.
And so I'd been an entrepreneur for so many years. The fear factor came in like, is anyone even going to want to hire
Mhm.
me? All these things, which are crazy, right? Like
It's true.
crazy in the moment. So, so I did. I started thinking of ways I could bring in income and start to be able to reach out to my contacts. And in the midst of all this, I had recorded about 80 episodes of a podcast with a podcasting company just prior, and I went into this state of mind where I was like, everything has to be removed and no podcast because almost every single one, I gave thanks to having this
Mhm.
incredible spouse that supported me on all these crazy journeys that I went on. And so for me, I just felt like, oh my gosh, everything is a lie. It wasn't a lie to me. So that's
Right.
another thing that I want to tell people because if you are living in your truth and your integrity, regardless of what someone else does to you, Like, it still was your truth.
Exactly. Yeah.
And yeah.
And
So
that's a very powerful statement. So I'm glad that, you bring that up because it might have been a lie to some people, but again, it was your truth.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I love that.
So I wasn't the one living the lie,
Mhm.
and so that's a really tough one for people to understand too, when they think they need to like erase their whole past.
Exactly.
And in the pain, it makes sense. And there were a lot of things, I did too, like a lot of things that were ripped up, a lot of things
Mhm.
removed. But at the end of the day, I don't regret the life that I had built. I don't regret the what I regret is not listening to my gut.
Yeah.
What I
Mhm.
regret is not respecting myself enough to say, no, something is seriously wrong.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to allow him or a therapist, because I had a therapist that was like, no, no,
Mhm.
no, tell me that I need to continue working on myself.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've been in therapy off and on since I was 19. I've been working on personal development since I was a teenager. I have been focused on mental health since I was a kid. Like, there's no way.
Mhm. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And you do. And sometimes again, it's good to seek out advice, but sometimes there has to be a point where we're like, enough, and starting to do that.
Yeah.
I want to shift gears a little bit now and go in and talk about your professional side because again, you've used a lot of this to fuel. And let's talk about, PR and branding. A lot of that is in helping us to identify our voice and be able to again share our voice and have it connect with those that we can serve. I think it's just absolutely perfect that this is also where you live because you had to do this with yourself. And I've seen it firsthand. You and I just met and we've been working together now for just a couple of weeks. And I'm already blown away at the knowledge you have in really understanding. But what I want to do first is I think there's a lot of confusion around what really is branding and PR and why do we need it? We
Yeah.
think, oh, unless I own a company like Pepsi or something, why do I even need PR?
Mhm. No, it's so, so true. I love talking about this because this is so fun to talk about for me, because I love helping people understand this. Now, PR doesn't have the best reputation, right? Full disclosure, I originally studied communications and public relations, journalism. I wanted to be a reporter on the news. So when I did my internship on the news and saw that I was going to be forced to not tell the full truth
Ah.
and was feeling pressured into, now I listened to my gut then and I said, no, this person is going through a horrible thing. Now I was young, right? I was a
Mhm.
baby doing that internship, like not even 20. And so I very quickly was like, I can't I can't lie on camera, and I have no problems calling it out because I think that it's I was with CBS first and then I went to NBC, and I have no problems calling out what really happened because I think that a lot of people do look to the news for their, they think, truth. And with that in other areas of public relations, we have a little bit of there's kind of a negative connotation around what public relations is. But when you are focused on public relations and offering public relations for the right reasons, it can change everything for you and your business.
Mm.
And so that's kind of why I ended up starting this company, because it comes back full circle, right? Never in a million years did I really think I would be starting a company in public relations. But I am such a passionate person about helping others be able to shine their light. I was a cheerleader, right? I love to cheer for
Mhm.
other people. I love to be a cheerleader for people in my day to day life. And that just really truly speaks to who I am as a person. And so with PR and public relations, we get to help brand people. to live and look like their best, right? Whether it be a person or a company. And I say people because really and truly, no matter who you work for, even if you do work for Pepsi, I still believe you need to build your own personal brand.
Mhm.
Whether you want to be a celebrity or not, it's not about making you famous. It is about you becoming the best that you can be and showcasing and highlighting all of your extraordinary talents and abilities so that if for some reason you need recognition in your market or a niche, or you need to shift gears and go into something else, because we never know. A lot of us had to pivot during COVID, right?
Right. Absolutely.
So many people. And for people who already had a name and a brand, a lot of them were okay. And a lot of them capitalized during the time when other people were being laid off, right? So it really is a matter of who is known and who isn't. Who
Right.
took the time to build out their name on social media? Who was highlighted in what publications? And when you Google search someone, that person that's omnipresent on all the social platforms and has some publications and articles and has been interviewed by
Mhm.
other incredible hosts on television or on podcasts, they're going to come up first in Google.
Right.
And you might have somebody else who has more credentials, more education, but our minds, because of the human psychology, we see someone who's omnipresent and they're sharing their message on social platforms and they've been featured in LA Weekly or Forbes magazine or whatever the case may, Business Insider, whatever the case may be. And then there's this other person who studied for 20 years because they have a PhD behind their name, but I can only find one LinkedIn profile about them and then their website, and that's it. I feel like I trust the other person, even though they
Right.
have less credentials.
Yeah, because again, when you're working on this, it's, showing that you've been in the trenches more. I mean, it shows your personal expertise
Mhm.
and the impact that you're having, at a glance. And
Mhm.
like you said, somebody could have all the abbreviations after their name, but if they haven't really done too much and this other person is really highlighting it, again, it gives a lot, especially today with the age of technology. It really, you get a lot of credibility when you have that. So, a lot of the people who are going to be watching this show are professional women, especially there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there. So, what would be maybe 2 or 3 tips that you could give? Let's say somebody doesn't have a large budget to hire someone like you yet. Where's a good place for them to start in crafting their own message and starting their own PR journey?
Yeah. So I would say become really intentional in your marketing on social media. It's free. It's free. And you can repurpose your content.
Mm,
Okay. So you can develop content on one platform, TikTok, Instagram, whatever the case may be, and then take that content in a couple days and then post it over on Facebook or then post it over on LinkedIn. And the other thing I would say is really show up. Show
mm,
up, reach out, find people, or come to someone like me who wants to help people in a big way. Yes, I have a company. Yes, I have access to every publication and news station out there. But I also want to help people that are really trying to build, right? And so I do talk a lot about building out your personal brand on social media platforms. And I also talk about, right now we have a mastermind group that meets weekly and we're launching a 30-day video challenge. So we're really going to be giving away tips. It's free
yeah.
and it's a free challenge. And you're
Mhm.
going to be surrounded by people that are going to engage in your post, give you tips and ideas. I also tell people go on Canva, build out a calendar to help you decide on your content. Now, it doesn't have to be all business, right? Showcase you, showcase who you are in your content because people want to know you.
Right.
People buy from people. Okay.
Mhm.
I want everyone to remember that whether you have a product based business or a service based business, people buy from people they like and trust, right? It doesn't really matter if, you know, it's all relationship building. It really is. It's relationship building. So,
And I think it's important again to not have it all business because I think they need to see a human side of you as well. So I
right.
think, bringing in some of that, personal side to you, because again, you don't always want to just be selling. And I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but I've seen a lot of people who just post to post. And I'm not an expert in social media, but one of the things that I really, take to heart is, am I posting to deliver value?
Yeah.
And I think that that's really at the heart of it. And I think, again, going back to one of the things that you brought up earlier is when you were starting your company is anybody even going to want to work with me? Is anybody going to want to hear from me? And I know that so many struggle with that worthiness. Everybody else is doing this. Why would they listen to me?
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you are always coming from a place of genuine desire to serve and to help, you don't have to worry. Am I posting too much? Am I doing this? Because if you're always delivering value, it's not going to be too much.
No. No, and I honestly think at this point in today's world, nothing is too much.
Mm-hmm.
And so I couldn't agree more with you. People want a human side. They want value, but they also want to know you're human.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we show up looking perfect, like today, I lost electricity. So I'm here recording and I'm like, oh my gosh, I couldn't even look at myself like this whole time. But I'm like, you know what? I'm still going to show up. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm so excited for this interview. I'm not going to let Claire down. Like, there's so many things we can make excuses for ourselves. Like,
Right.
I could have been like, look, I can't like really curl my hair or
Mm-hmm.
look good. So, but I'm human
Right.
and other people are too. And so I want people to understand no one's looking for perfection. That doesn't mean roll out of bed and start videoing your business content, right?
Right.
I always try to say I teach people too, like show up looking your best. Here's why. You will then feel your best. You
Yeah.
will
Mm-hmm.
feel more confident. I teach when I work with just women, when it's a women's group, I teach them about the psychology of putting on color. Most of the
Mm-hmm.
time, I reference it as lipstick. And there is psychology that we have dopamine and endorphins that release in our brain when we look in the mirror and we think we look good.
So true. And I learned a lot of that firsthand over COVID because all of my trainings were in person and now it was all Zoom. And so many times, you got the Zoom outfit on where it's, professional up top and pajamas and Ugg boots on the bottom. And I did notice it affected my energy level. And I say the same thing. It's like, I've got to present myself. And I think it also goes back to what you just said a few minutes ago, be intentional
Mhm.
because everything you put out there, again, is part of your calling card. And it's about the consistency factor and again, the intentionality. So I think those are really good lessons. There's just a couple more questions I want to ask you as we start to tie it together. First of all, I really want to highlight you because you really are amazing at what you do. I am learning so much about the right way to do things. And I just want people to know that if they are looking for someone who knows what they're doing and also is truly coming from a place of heart, you are one of those people. So you mentioned that you are working on some new things. So share with us, what are some of the exciting things you have coming up next for you?
Yeah, so I'm super excited. I am launching a television segment as well on Biz Talk on Now Media Television. So I'm super excited about that. I also have a book coming out. I actually have two books coming out, which is extraordinarily exciting for me, because I also, as I'm a serial entrepreneur, do a lot of things, suffer extreme ADD, ADHD, can't sit still to save my life. So for me, I've had friends that have tried to talk me into writing a book for years, and I've always been like, but finally I did it. And then I'm just gonna let everyone know, because we did talk about our personal life a little
Mhm.
bit in the beginning. And I was very real and raw with my writing and my videotaping, recording. And so when I recorded, to myself, my feelings and my honesty, it turned into quite an extraordinary story. And I'm not using my name in the book. So just so
Mhm.
everyone, if you're looking for the true story, my name is not attached to it, because I feel I want to protect my children.
Yeah.
But I will say that, other people need to hear the story,
Mhm.
not because of wanting it to make me famous or anything, but because I think that it happens so much more often. And if you are of someone who has trouble with living in integrity in a relationship, whether it be business or it be in your personal life, and you're doing things behind your significant other's back or your partner's back, there's help.
Yeah.
There's help. So
Mhm.
it's not just about, I don't want to look at myself as a victim. Yes,
Mhm.
this was not my fault. And yes, this happened to me. And yes, I'm still here today to talk about it. But I also want those people who struggle to know that they too deserve a chance to
Mhm.
make their life right.
Absolutely.
So on both sides, I share some stories from people who have gone through both sides of it. And so I think that, if I can encourage one person to stop the double life they're living, or one woman to understand that, look, there are Victoria's Secret models that I went through therapy with, that this is happening to. It has
Mhm.
nothing to do with you on the reason the other person did this.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with you. And so I just want to encourage people to know that, we do things and we make things out of, decisions for ourselves. And oftentimes it's not to intentionally hurt someone else, but we have our own challenges within our
Yeah.
head. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. You're amazing. And please, we're going to put all of your information in the show notes. And I would love to have you come back on when your books are being released so we can promote you there and share some of those. And before I ask you the last question, I just want to acknowledge you and just say thank you so much, because even today, everything you do, from your books to your business to how you show up daily, you're coming from a place of gratitude, strength, and again, support. And there are very few people that are truly genuine givers at the heart. Most people give with the intention of what can I get in return? And in the short time that I've known you, you have authentically and openly given. And I just want to say thank you, because you are truly a beautiful person inside and out. So thank you so much for being part of my circle. And I look forward to our continued relationship of working together. So, with our last question, being that we're here talking about creating success on our terms, being here now today with everything you've learned and everything you've gone through, how do you define success for yourself today?
That's a good one. First of all, thank you so much for all those kind words. I just love and adore you. I am so honored to be getting to know you, and I'm so beyond excited to really help you just build your personal brand, because you have an extraordinary story that needs to be seen and heard as well. But my definition of success is truly finding the ability to see and feel, not just see, but feel happiness and abundance in my life. And I look, I'm going to be real with everyone here too. I am on a mission and a goal to make back a significant amount of income because I believe that when we achieve a financial level of success, we can give more abundantly. We can make a bigger impact on things that take finances in
Mhm.
order to make that impact. Um, I am heavily involved in the fight against sex trafficking of children. And I know it's an extraordinary expense. I know because it gets deducted from my bank account every single month
Mhm.
because I give, because I care. These kids need us.
Mhm.
And I definitely have a big vision and a goal in mind to be able to continue to try and increase my company's income, my income, so that I can continue to serve and give in a
Mhm.
bigger way than I've ever been able to do. So it's really not about the fancy, flashy things for
Right.
me. It's about, truly feeling happiness and abundance so that I can continue to give and travel the world. So
Love it.
that is definitely never going off of my radar.
Ah, I love it. Well, Rachel, thank you again for being here. For those of you that are watching, if you need help leveling up with your personal brand, your messaging, and also maybe wanting to get, more involved in breaking through some of your own trauma or even helping with the fight against sex trafficking, please reach out to Rachel. Again, you can reach out to her on Instagram, and there she is. I am Rachel Press. So reach out to her, have a conversation with her. She truly is amazing. We've talked a lot about living in integrity, living your truth, knowing that you are okay the way that you are. And again, knowing that you've got to keep fighting for yourself and doing what's right for you. So, for all of you watching, thank you again for being here with us today with Women Winning Their Way. I'm your host, Clara Capano, and looking forward to seeing you in some of our upcoming episodes.